Hi guys, it's Didi here, and in today's video I'm going to answer some of your questions. If you remember a few weeks ago, I've asked you if you have any questions and I recorded a Q&A. Many of your questions were in relation to Montessori, and today I'm tackling them. They are more or less the same or similar, and I thought that this video will be very useful for those of you that are interested to implement Montessori at home or who are more interested in how they can be the Montessori parents. For those of you that don't know, last year I founded a Montessori nursery school, which is for children between the age of 2 and 5. And I studied with the Montessori Center International, the Montessori curriculum and the Montessori program. So now I'm almost a Montessori teacher, qualified teacher. I'm halfway through my second year and through the placement, but I've covered all of the theory. I've studied in details the Montessori philosophy, the child development, which I already studied before during my master's degree in psychology as well. So that was more like an expansion. But I also run the nursery, so I have the day-to-day experience with little children and seeing how the Montessori philosophy is embodied in our daily life. Now, what's Montessori? I've already done a video about Montessori. If you want, go and watch it. Maria Montessori, she was extremely progressive woman for her time. And back in the previous century, in 905, 906, she was in charge of one area of Rome where she had to take care of the children who were the children of the people who were going to work, very, very poor children. So the mayor gave her these children and said, what can you do with them? And she started observing them, and that's how her journey with the education and specifically with children between 0 and 6 started. And when nowadays we hear about the Montessori philosophy, normally we associate that with lots of freedom for the child. One of the main tenets of the Montessori philosophy is follow the child. That's why it's quite closely related to the natural parenting nowadays, to feeding on demand, to making sure that you follow your child's needs rather than imposing them yours. It's very much about affectionate parenting, about doing the natural thing for your children. And I think that many of us are Montessori parents without knowing that we are following the Montessori philosophy. Certainly, I did not know much about Montessori before, but when I studied it now in details, I realized that I've done with Mika a lot of the Montessori things and a lot of her foundations were embodied in the way I parented him. From how I would follow him to how I would feed him, which means he would feed himself, from making sure that I raised him as a very independent child. Now, the first most important thing in Montessori, as I said, is follow the child. How you can do that at home, it's not as hard as you think it is. It's about giving them freedom, giving them a lot of space to choose their own activities, to choose independently what are the things that they want to do, to engage in activities that they are feeling that they want to do rather than you choosing for themselves. Also to let them be who they are and give them lots of space to choose and concentrate on the things that they're doing. Nowadays, there is this, I feel that within parents, there is this feeling that we need to interfere all the time when our children are doing something. We need to entertain them all the time because, they can get bored or they may, have an idle time when they don't do much. That's not Montessori. Montessori, it's even if you see your child concentrating on something and from your point of view, they are bored, to not do anything but preserve their concentration. Let them be bored, let them explore freely, let them go and choose what are the things they want to do. Montessori was very much based on a few foundations. So if you can imagine, there is a triangle and here is the child, so always follow the child, and here is the favorable environment. So how can you build a favorable environment that supports the human tendencies that the child was born with? What do we mean by that? Children are born wanting to be independent, wanting to be excellent, wanting to have this sense of human tendency of order, of gregariousness, of beauty, exactitude. So they were born with that. It's up to us to create an environment where they can express these human tendencies. And Montessori talks a lot about the sensitive periods between 0 and 6, which is the phase when the children are in so-called absorbent mind. And in these sensitive periods, these are sensitive periods for language acquisition, for refinement of the fine motor skills, and for the order. And these are the time, sensitive periods means that this is a crucial time where a child is very receptive to certain stimuli. So they very easily and smoothly and effortlessly can learn something. That's why children accumulate language with such ease. And you can introduce them to 2, 3, 4 languages at that age, 3, 4, 5 years of age, and they'll acquire this language very, very easily. So favorable environment means that you take into consideration these sensitive periods, you take into consideration the fact that they were born with certain needs and tendencies, and then you create an environment that supports them to express these human tendencies. So in terms of physical environment, it's great if you can build around the environment, at least in their room, where there are child-size furniture, where they can easily reach the things that they're looking for, to put them in order and beautifully arranged. If you can avoid plastic or noisy toys, or if you can avoid toys that are very colorful with lots of other appealing to different sort of senses to the child, it's much better. So it's better if it's white and natural colors and wooden if possible, and not cluttered, because children have this need for order. And I know a lot of you would say that's totally not true. My children will make complete mess with the toys on the floor and they don't really care that it's messy. So how can they really care about order? But the fact is they do. If you give them, let's say, lots of cars, they'll put them in order, they'll put them in a row. They have this innate need, but they also see us. And if we are there to clean up the mess for them, then they're not learning to put the things back. And if everything that you arrange in their room is in such a way that they can easily see and work with the materials that you put there, that's great too. So create this favorable environment. For me, favorable environment as well is related to the language you use. So a Montessori parent would be very careful with the language you use, and the language we try to be very positive and avoiding words like no. And I know that that's really hard. I mean, I tried it and tested it so many times myself, although I'm so aware of it, and still I say no more often than I wish I would use the word no. There are very different ways you can use different words instead of no. So for example, you can say, I cannot let you do that because of certain things. Then just simply to say no. And by creating favorable environment, what we normally mean is that you create it in such a way that it's safe, that it's really interesting for them, that it works with their need for exploration, so you don't have to go after them and say, no, you shouldn't touch this, no, you shouldn't touch that. So if you prepare your environment well, you don't really have to use no all the time. Another one, which is big for Montessori, is to support the independence of the children. So for those of you who always ask me how I can be more Montessori at home, that would mean you have to step really back and observe more, give space to your child, and then give them the chance to become more independent. I feel that nowadays we parents do by far much more than we should do for our children, and quite often this is because we don't have time. So I understand it's so much easier for me to put the shoes on Mika than to let him put his own shoes. It's so much easier for me to wash the dishes or to set up the table than to ask him to help me, which means sometimes a mess when he was little one, which means he can spill things, which means he can break things. However, this is really important and pays off in the long term. So supporting independence you can do in various ways at home. You can let them zip their jackets and button and unbutton their cardigans, put their shoes on. I know that there are these fancy shoes and Converse and other cool shoes that I really like as well when I put on Mika. However, they're not great because when they're 3 and 4 years old, they cannot really put them on. You still have to help them. So use them occasionally only, and make sure you have shoes with Velcro, let's say, that they can put by themselves. Another thing is get them engaged in your family life. A lot of parents, I totally don't see that around me. I do it, but again, I had to step back and observe and really stop myself. And even up to date, I do that. Let them help you. Let them clean with a vacuum, which means you have to clean after them. Let them wash the dishes, which means you have to wash the dishes after them. Give them a cooking assignment, so when you cook in the kitchen, they can come and cut the cucumbers and the food and everything around you and help you with that. Mika always loves to help me when I make the banana pancakes, so he's mixing the eggs, and there are different things that I feel that it's so much easier if I do it, but he wants to. And quite often we want our children to help when they're older, and we say, oh, I'm so annoyed my child doesn't do anything at home. But then we forgot that when they were little and wanted to help, we kept saying, no, 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 I can do it now, no, no, no. So everything that is a practical life skill, which is a huge area of the Montessori curriculum, is something which you can explore at home. How early you can start? Very early. Tidying up toys, you can start from the moment you give them some toys and activities. They may not do it, and they certainly won't do it for at least a year and a half, but if you're persistent, if you keep doing it, they will see you doing it. Another thing with language and creating favorable environment and working on independence is as well how you can allow them to to build confidence by using their language. So what I mean by that is try to ask as many open-ended questions as possible. It takes a little bit of practice, but it's very powerful because especially when we're looking at their work, we quite often say, oh, I can see, is this a helicopter or is this a boat? And the child is, what's going on? You know, they just killed my dream. This is a spaceship or it's whatever they've built. So learn to ask open-ended questions without any assumptions of what you see on their work or what you think that they're expressing or feeling at the moment. Another thing in Montessori, which is also, now that I know more about the growth mindset and now that I know more about how to support my child's development, is about how we praise them. Montessori is very much about the process rather than the result. Very similar to the growth mindset by Carol Dweck. You know, if you haven't read the book by Carol Dweck, The Mindset, please do so. I've been telling that on almost every second video. And what do I mean by that is, like when a child is drawing or doing something, they don't really care about the end result, and that's hard for us to understand because we adults have been so much taught since our primary school and secondary school to focus on the end result rather than the process, that for us, when we do something, we do it with the end in mind. So we are looking forward when it's over. We can evaluate our work based on how the result is. Children don't care about these things. They're drawing and they may leave it unfinished just because they enjoy the drawing part. So it's very much about, if you do a praise for a child, do it in a descriptive way. I did a video about praising, so I'll link it somewhere and I'll definitely link it in the comment box below. So please go and watch it. I found that descriptive praising has so much to do with Montessori, and originally I did not even make the link initially. And last two things I want to mention: give enough time to your child. Time doesn't exist for children, and we get so annoyed when they're toddlers and we are running somewhere and we are late and we have to go to a certain place and they're not cooperative. They're not cooperative because they don't really care about our schedule, because time doesn't exist to the point that if they're walking in the park and they see a bug, they can spend half an hour just looking at this bug, right? So for them, they are into the moment, they're so present, they are actually biologically, they are in more in alpha brain waves rather than beta where we are, so you cannot blame them for that. So what I always say to parents, and I always encompass that myself, is do not wait until you wake up your child and give them only 20 minutes for breakfast or for preparation before you go out for your meetings, appointments or school or nurseries. Make sure that you get up earlier so that they have enough space in the morning so that you don't have to bug them and push them and say, okay, right, we're late, we're late, we're late. Try to make it as effortless as it's possible for them, and trust me, that would make it much easier for you too. And last thing, that it's not only Montessori, I feel that that's one of the most important thing in how we're bringing up children is you as a parent, what sort of role model you are. In Montessori classroom, we have a lot of the role modeling of the teacher to the children, because the teacher has a very special role. It's not like the usual teacher in the traditional school education where the teacher collects the children and teaches them something. The teacher in the Montessori classroom observes the child, let them be who they are, believes that they are much more intelligent than we think they are at this stage of their life, and also by observing them and letting them, giving them space, the teacher is there to guide them and to role model the behavior rather than imposing something, because after all, and again, this is maybe Montessori, maybe not, that's how I feel as well, it's who you are to know better than this child. How are you going to guide their spirit? They are here, we have to believe that they're much more intelligent. I keep saying that because sometimes we feel that they're too little children, they don't really understand, so we don't have to even spend the time to explain things to them. It's exactly the opposite. They accumulate knowledge in a much effortless and better way while they're in the absorbent mind. The most important years are between 0 and 6. I keep saying that. Montessori strongly believed in that. And that's the time when you set them up for their self-confidence, independence, self-esteem, and feeling good about themselves. So be a great role model. You cannot expect to require something from your child and at the same time do the opposite. You may preach something, and if you don't live it, that's what they see. You have to be the role model in the behaviors. It's one thing to say every time to your child, say thank you, say thank you, say thank you, if you don't do it. If your child sees you every time when you see your people or when you're in the shop that you are very polite and nice and you say thank you to people or you hug them or you kiss them, that's what they will do. You don't have to really repeat it to themselves. If they see you that every time you're cleaning your activities after you finish with them, they'll start doing it themselves. So make sure that if you want to install some sort of the behaviors, you are living it first, and then they'll see that and then they'll follow you. So I really hope that this video helped you. I can talk about Montessori for hours, and I'm trying to distill it and put the information in a way that works for you. There were a few of you that asked me what are certain activities you can do at home. So I have videos that were done with Mika, I think, 1.5 years ago. So these are activities that are appropriate for children between 2 and 3, sometimes 1.5 to 3 years of age. But when you have a baby, or let's say 1 year to 2 years of age, there are different puzzles you can do. This is the time when you can sort of impose the ground rules. How do we respect our activities, our books? How do we help each other? How do we care about independence? You can introduce certain puzzles for them. Try not to be colorful or have too many things on one thing, on one game or whatever activity it is. Try to be, try to use natural materials as much as possible in the things that you introduce. For older children, everything from the practical life skills is a great opportunity to be a Montessori parent. Even if you don't want to accommodate your home and house and introduce child's house furniture, you can get them involved in the kitchen, get them involved in the cleaning of the taking care of the plants, of the pets, of themselves, of washing, brushing, cleaning their shoes, taking care of the glasses of mommy and daddy, cleaning them, pouring, it's a great activity, transferring different things, threading, sorting activities, matching activities. These are all very easy to do, and you don't have to buy anything. Children will normally prefer natural things to play and be engaged with rather than toys, and you can see that hundreds of times, especially when they're younger. So don't think that you need to buy expensive things. I'll link the videos below. Let me know if you want me to do more videos about Montessori activities. I really hope that this video helped you guys in some way, and apologies, it's very long. As I said, I can talk for hours about this subject. And I hope if you like this video, you'll share it with your friends, and I'll see you next week.
So don't try to change me. If you do love me, then take me for who I am.